Stop chasing attention and start playing your game. It's what the NBA just did, and it's what every creator, athlete, and brand needs to remember. The NBA is back, and it's not just the players who are competing, it's the brands too. In just 1 week, we saw NBC return with its Round Ball Rock theme song, MJ grace our screens again, and tech and sneaker brands trading shots like it's the playoffs. Beneath all of that noise is a bigger story, one that's not about basketball, but one about brand identity. So today, I'm breaking it all down. What the NBA taught us about staying authentic, building longevity, and running your own winning plays. And if you're new here, I'm Derek the Marketing Point Guard, and welcome to my channel. Here I break down the trending insights and topics in sports that can help you build your own personal brand. Let's get to the point. Now, if you're a fan of basketball like myself, last week was amazing for many reasons. First, we got basketball back, and it's on NBC. Now, I'm a 90s baby, so I grew up with Jordan on Sundays, Bob Costas, the whole nine. And they were able to recreate that magic and put us right back in that moment. And it was masterful. What really stood out this year with NBC's return to the NBA broadcast was their attention to creating a positive story and positive feel around the game of basketball. What was sort of missing as of late was the pageantry. Like we need to see all of those elements to kind of put us in the arena and focus on the game. Yes, there's a ton of chatter around basketball, from free agencies to trades to style and culture, a lot of things that we cover on this channel. But at the core, the game is beautiful, the game is great, the game is special. And NBC did an expert job of highlighting just that. And I think it really shined through in their broadcast of the banner celebration, right? Players get their rings and they raise the banner up into the rafters. And usually it's been an afterthought as of late. We get a couple clips here, or cut into commercial in between. They just let the tape roll, and it was felt by the audience. And something as simple as the players touching the banner as it goes up just adds that connection to, man, this is something special. They did something historic last year, and it's going up to the rafters to hang forever. And that was dope. And then around it, we get the championship rings that were just amazing. I mean, they're getting so big and intricate these days that it's hard to wear them. That's why I love the feature they had this year. We can kind of pop the top, and there's a more kind of standard band that has the players' numbers and the trophies on there. That's likely to get a lot more wears than the huge gaudy rings that that they've been going with lately. But again, that's a part of the brand. Players want that. It's a trophy in and of itself, more so than it is a ring, honestly. So that was great to see. Then we get the banner going up. Another great moment. And we also have players kind of adding their own signature takes on the championship celebration. Converse and Shea cooked up the first two-tone colorway of the Shea ones. It was cool to see a variation. So far to date, we've only seen full color blocking on his shoe. So this was the first take on what it could look like with multiple colors. And I'm sure they'll start to play around with that a little bit more as we get into the season. And then on the Adidas front, unfortunately, J-Dub is injured, but he got his own championship banner celebration PE for the Harden Volume 9s. And I mean, that shoe, people are sleeping on that shoe as sneaker of the year to me, honestly. It's such a dope design, innovative. The colorways have been all fire. Like, that's a great shoe. So for J-Dub to have that for his championship moment, even without playing, it just adds, right? It adds to the mystique. You're building this lore. You're building these moments, right? Like, people are going to remember tuning into the first game of the season and seeing all of that and wanting to see that again and tying it back to the finals when those pop up later in the year. And something that I'm just personally very invested in is the return of the NBA Finals trophy to the court. Telling you guys, bullying sometimes be working. I joke, but it's really about taking the criticisms and taking the sentiments of your fans that are the strongest and the loudest voices and responding to it. And so shout out to the NBA for doing that, right? Like, us diehard NBA fans have been saying, like, the finals is precious, and they've just sort of stripped every kind of nostalgic and just personal attachment to it that made the branding feel big, right? We had the logos on the court, we had the final script logos. All of that's kind of scaled back to like digital or stanchion signage, and looking at a game doesn't feel big. It doesn't feel like the championship moment that it is. And so like NBC coming in and having that lens and that approach to the broadcast, the NBA starting to tease that they're going to add some of those other elements that we love back. It just goes to building a big brand and those points of connection that fans can really connect to. And yes, you may have removed the logos for sponsor reasons, but like sponsorship is great. The fans make this thing go. So you got to always stay in tune with what they want and connect back to what they're doing. And speaking of a big fan servicing moment, NBC bringing in Michael Jordan, we've just started to scratch the surface on how powerful these little pieces of content are going to be. Emphasis on little. The first one was only 4 minutes long, but in that about 4 minutes, we got so much insight already. And it was just mostly Jordan speaking to his own personal undying love of the game, right? And how he wishes he could just take a pill and be able to play. I feel him on that, you know, like just wanting to go back and do the things that he was the greatest in the world at doing. Like anybody can relate to that, right? So that just humanizes Jordan off rip. And then we get into a story about him playing basketball for the first time in a long time. And, you know, it seems kind of like, all right, whatever, Jordan, you're the GOAT. But even him, he is so aware of his perception, and knowing that he hadn't played in a while, he said it was the most nervous he's ever been to take free throws because these kids who probably have heard their parents telling him that, oh, this is the greatest basketball player of all time. If I step up here and miss a free throw, they're going to be like, all right, who is this guy? This is the guy you said is the greatest? So him feeling that pressure from a group of, you know, elementary school age kids or so is kind of, again, it further humanizes him. It shows his humility. And I think it's great. I think that was the perfect setup for the program that we're going to see throughout the season. It seems like they might have recorded it in one shot and piecing it out, or maybe they're recording different segments. Whatever the case may be, I'll take any and all takes from Jordan. Just like we just haven't seen someone like him give a perspective like that who is not currently in it. Like obviously LeBron has mind the game, but Jordan has been kind of removed from the public eye in this way from him speaking. So we're going to see Jordan add crazy levels to his personal brand in real time. So I'll definitely be here to break down all those insights as they pop up. But it's just exciting, man, to see one of the GOATs give his take on something. It really shows the importance of, you know, speaking to your expertise and sharing and just being a part of the conversation. So I'm excited to see what Jordan has to bring. There was a couple of trolls and people who took this into a whole left field and somehow made it about LeBron when he didn't even start talking about basketball really yet. And then you had Chimes and some other folks trying to discredit the story. It's just like, guys, we have greatness in front of us. Let's just celebrate it. Let's just be in the moment. Let's just soak up the gems and not try to pull these like kind of crazy comparisons and add to whatever debates you want to have. Like, this is great for basketball. I think that's what NBC is bringing back to the NBA. It's just this care and joy for the game, right? They have the partnership with Enjoy Basketball, right? The name is, the brand name speaks for itself, right? They're coming to bring just a joy back to the game that sort of the criticism and hot take culture has started to strip away from. So I'm just excited about all the things NBC did with their initial broadcast, and I'm looking forward to what they're going to keep doing. Now, all the pageantry, all the excitement is great, but like I said, you can't dress up anything. The product still has to be good, and man, has the NBA delivered these first couple of games, right? Game one off bat, double OT thriller between the Thunder and the Rockets. KD almost pulled a Chris Webber, called the false timeout. We had clutch shots. It was amazing, right? And then the next night we get Wemby, who like I can't even fully understand what I'm watching when I see him play, right? Like the things he's doing on the court just like sort of breaks my brain. These are creative players we would make in 2K and NBA Live back in the day. That we were like, oh yeah, let's just have some fun and create a 7-6 person that can shoot, dribble, and Wemby's out here doing it, blocking every shot. Like, it's insane. So the game is in good hands. Got these epic performance. Ant had a 41-point game. Steph with his classic Curry flurry late against the Nuggets, just like that never gets old. The fact that he's still doing that. I mean, and LeBron hasn't even started playing yet. So this has just been like peak for basketball. Quick timeout. Are you an athlete struggling to get partnerships? The truth is you don't need a large following. You need a coach. Someone to help you get clear on your strategy, develop your POV, and have the opportunities come to you. If you want to start working on your brand the same way you work on your game, I'm hosting a free webinar on the 5 mistakes NIL athletes make. The link is in the description. Join the waitlist now. More details to come soon. Now, let's get back to the video. And funny enough, with all the competition on the court at its highest level, the brand stepped in. And man, oh man, Adidas, you knew they were going to come back. You knew Ant was not going to let that Converse ad from earlier in this year slide by unnoticed. So in case you don't remember, during the playoffs after the Oklahoma City Thunder beat the Minnesota Timberwolves, Converse ran an ad, with the ant, and it was like on like an ant hill, but it looked like a peach backdrop. And, they were really playing into like nothing left to prove, playing off of Shay's 2, and the copy kind of pointed to the Believe That campaign. It was sharp. I think it was a great moment. It was smart of them to do. The AE1s are at an unbelievable hype level, and you're coming in trying to disrupt and add your name to the conversation. It was great, but you had to know Adidas was coming back. And man, they came back in a major way. The new spot that they just released last week called The Truth featured Cat Williams doing sort of a stand-up style rendition.
I ain't gonna lie, that was hard, Cat. Ain't you forgetting something, though?
Ah, yes. This boy here is the truth. Believe that.
And bigging up Ant, bigging up Adidas, and taking some very pointed shots at Converse and trolling their heritage, like asking the question if are they even still a brand? Like, I see why y'all went away, all of that, right? And it's in great fun and it's in good jest. And Adidas has sort of set this as the standard. This is kind of how they kick off the season. A couple years ago, it was Ant throwing away all the shoes. That was his introduction into the game. Then last year, it was the campfire and the lie detector, kind of telling everybody, addressing all the haters and saying what they were going to do that year. And now we got this spot. So it's a nice momentum, a nice consistency that they're building on that front. And Converse, you're in this game now. You decided to poke the bear. You had to know they were going to clap back, and they should be ready to respond when the moment presents itself. Stay true to yourself. You want to play at your pace and play at your game. And if you're not ready to compete with Adidas, how Adidas competes, play your game. Play your game and play that well. We got a game coming up November 26th. That one should be all the brand content is going to be locked and loaded. Locked and loaded. The copywriting better be on point. The messaging better be on point. Better be ready to react with highlights. It's going to be a show. So I'm really looking forward to that game. And I think it's an NBA Cup game. So even better for the league, right? The competition is happening all around. This just, again, contributes to the excitement and the energy of the game. And outside of Adidas and Converse, we got some other battles that went down last week. We got Chime. Chime, an unsuspecting character in this whole conversation, popped up with the Wings ad recreation with Cooper Flag. He had the Chime cards in his hand, which was interesting. You got a financial tech company kind of dabbling in sneaker culture and branding. So the connection wasn't really there. Cooper's a New Balance athlete, obviously, and a competitor of Jordan brand. So pulling on Jordan heritage and legacy. Dallas, there's not really any connections to Jordan outside of just wanting to do a cool ad. So I would question sort of the insights in making that ad or choosing that as your reference point to pull from. But either way, they did what they did and they put it out there and it got on Jordan's radar. And they had the perfect reply to Chime's rip of their content in playing on the banking and financial element of Chime, insufficient funds, which is just clean, sharp copy, which is what you need on social media if you're going to engage in these back and forth. So for Chime, even with all of the critiques I have of why they did this, you now have been elevated to Front Street, right? Like, the thing about Jordan brand is they are the big dogs. Nike, they're the big dogs. So, when they acknowledge you, it puts you almost on a level with them. So they have to be a little bit more strategic about how they respond. I think they just saw this as so flagrant and egregious that two words that could get the job done. Like, why not take that little sneak diss? You know, like that was a perfect play on their part. But now Chime gets elevated and they have a moment and they could really like lean in, like, hey, what's your brand about? You know, are you gonna kind of engage in this way, or kind of bow out? They chose the latter, a very meek response. A little disappointed, a little copy heavy, but whatever. I think it's just a good moment. But it just shows that, you know, the tensions are high. Everybody's ready to go. Everybody's ready to compete. So Chime, if you're going to be in the sports marketing space, if you're going to try to build your brand through these players, you also got to be competitive. So just a reminder as you kind of engage in this, like, you got to be ready. And then the last kind of competition point I want to bring out comes from Google. I think Google has been doing a great job with their latest campaign, really trying to drive the narrative of switch or change and getting people to convert from iPhones to Google Pixels. And, you know, it's an uphill battle, but it has sort of the same DNA of what Apple did when they were trying to poke fun at Microsoft and PC, which was the dominant force at the time. So I love their vanilla campaign. The Vanilla Pro is just like kind of expert stuff and just like poking fun at how the lack of innovation is happening at Apple, and they're just kind of churning out the same product over and over. I think that is a clever shot. The Apple ecosystem is way more integrated, so it's going to be harder to bust through, but I think they are leveraging strategic partnerships and creating these authentic storylines that drive that message home. During the WNBA finals, we saw the spots with Asia Wilson, where she, you know, Defensive Player of the Year. There's a conversation kind of happening in the background, and while she's, you know, playing on the court, she's yelling, switch, switch, switch. So, you know, you get that reinforcement there. And then for opening night, they debuted this spot with Steph Curry, and he's speaking to how loyal of a person he is. You know, he's been on the same team, wear the same number, had the same coach for 11 years. All of these things that show how much of a steady and loyal person he is, but even he was willing to switch. So again, you just start to plant those seeds. I think this is a long play in a long campaign that they've been executing for a while, and we'll have to continue to like hammer home that messaging. And, you know, I'm like Steph, I'm very loyal to Apple, but I see how this kind of campaign can really start to plant the seeds. You know, Apple's one slip up away from people being like, you know what, I might try that thing out. And if they deliver once they get the opportunity, this is what it's all about. So great use of partnerships, great use of strategic messaging, great use of alignment to just really drive home your point and really start to paint and build a world that people will eventually engage and connect with. So it was a great week of sports and content and marketing. And when you zoom out, you know, you start to see these threads of just authenticity, you know, building and planting the seeds for longevity, being competitive, you know, knowing your brand voice, knowing who it aligns with, and how to position and market that. Like, these are the things that create the emotional connections and build that brand value that the NBA as a whole is looking to create. And I would be remiss if I went through this whole video and then talk about the situation that also popped up last week with the FBI, you know, making some arrests and connecting to some gambling and poker games and all this stuff. I won't get into the nitty gritty of those and the legal ramifications, but it is just a reminder about the importance of your brand values and standing true to those brand values and not compromising it for short wins, right? Like the NBA, like every other league, has gotten bed with the sports gaming and gambling, well, it's the gaming companies, right? And that creates a slippery slope, you know, because we're betting over and unders, you know, you got people at the games heckling players about their parlays, starts to blur those lines. And when you bring that energy and that industry from the shadows into the limelight, you lose all moral high ground, right? And so this is a possible ramification of compromising on your brand values. And, you know, again, for these short-term wins and these partners that came in with billions of dollars and ready to activate, you know, it's just one of those things you have to assess as you grow and, you know, make the right calls on where you stand. And, you know, the NBA now will have to navigate this. This will be one of Adam Silver's biggest tests. You know, the FBI is involved. These are federal investigations. The mafia is involved. So these are big things that are circling around the game that you don't necessarily want, especially when you have all these great moments, all these things I've been speaking about this whole video. That's where you want the attention to be. So this distraction is a result of, you know, compromising on your brand values a little bit. So hopefully the NBA is able to rectify it, navigate this thing, and we just continue to get basketball that we love and trust. And, you know, these brands can continue to activate and tell these player stories and elevate all these brands. And that's where we'll wrap this up today. You know, the biggest thing, again, is, you know, building your stories, not chasing the algorithm, not chasing attention, not chasing virality, but chasing authentic connections that align with your values, right? That's what makes things stand out. That's what made last week so fun, so special, and that's what I'll be continuing to look for and relay to you guys so you can help build your personal brands and do the same. So I appreciate you. If you made it this far, let me know what your favorite campaign or moment from the week was in the comments. Please like, subscribe, and share with somebody you think might benefit or enjoy this video. And I look forward to catching you guys in the next one. Peace.